All right, all right. Happy Monday, everybody. My name is Jason Flame. Welcome to the Master Motivation Podcast. As most of you know, I was just in Las Vegas last week for the Martial Arts Super Show, and I'm always excited to run into my old friends and chat a little bit, and we'll get to chat with one of them today. My guest is Mr. Adam Parman, and Adam Parman is a Martial Arts Industry Association consultant and owns a school in Atlanta, Georgia. He's had the distinct honor of working for some of the best in the industry, including former MAIA Consultant Keith Scott, Joe Corley, Bill Clark, Mike Metzger, and Frank Silverman. Over his career, he has opened 9 schools from day one, owned 7 schools, taken over 4 existing schools, and managed 25 different schools over his 27-year martial arts career. He's been a MAIA Elite Consultant for 12 years and helped mentor hundreds of studio owners. Adam Parman started martial arts when he was 7 years old and received his black belt from Keith Vitali. He later went on to receive his 3rd degree black belt from Greg Silva and Diego Perez and is currently ranked as a 5th degree black belt in American karate. So once again, guys, welcome Adam Parman.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. It was great to catch up last week. We got to see a lot of our friends. It's been almost 2 years, over 2 years since we had the Martial Arts Super Show in person. So I think that was kind of the theme of everybody super excited just to see everybody in person. But here we are back on almost like a Zoom call. But it's the best way we can do it, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we got a couple viewers already. Look at that. Robbie Beard. What's up, Mr. Beard? He's watching.
Hey.
Saying hey to his homies. It was great to see him as well, and his wife, Christina. Hey, let's get started. Just kind of dive right in. I read your bio to everybody, but how did you get involved in martial arts in the beginning? I mean, 27 years ago, right?
Just like a lot of us, looking for an activity as a child, I saw the Olympics and was inspired by the martial arts on the Olympics and begged my parents for years to enroll me. And eventually my mom finally caved. After begging her for more than a year, she finally agreed and found a great local martial arts school. And the rest is history.
Nice. Now you're in Atlanta, Georgia now. Where did you grow up? Where did you start your martial arts?
I started here in Atlanta. I was originally born in Iowa and on a farm in the middle of nowhere. And there's no jobs or no way of making a good income unless you're a farmer. And so my family was forced to move to Atlanta where my mom's family lives and grew up on the south side of Atlanta, which is a little more of the rougher side. So my parents wanted to make sure that I could take care of myself and defend myself, especially with the school system and whatnot. So that's what kind of got me into that.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I love about interviewing my friends, people that I've known for a while, is I still learn something I never knew. I never knew you were from Iowa. Never knew that you were on a farm. Did you live there for a long time, and do you have any memories of what it was like to live in Iowa, or were you too young to remember?
Yeah, I was pretty young when we moved out. My dad was a teacher and got laid off. And so we moved here when I was 3. However, we still have a family farm or a family that has a large farm in Iowa. So I spent a lot of summers in Iowa. So I have lots of memories visiting, but not necessarily the short time that I lived there. So
nice. Well, here's another one of our friends, Kurt Klingenmeyer.
Hey.
What's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in and checking in here, guys. We got several viewers. Mr. Parman seems popular today. So if you have any questions that you want me to ask or you want to ask Mr. Parman, please drop those in the comments, and I'll be happy to read those out. But you talked about your dad being a school teacher, right? Now, you moved,
yes.
Did he continue as a school teacher?
He did. Yeah, my dad is. We always tease him because he's always been a school teacher, but he's been a million other things as well, right? So as a lot of school teachers that have off every summer. So my dad would take all these random jobs over those 2-3 months that during the summer break. So he's done everything from building pole barns to butcher to working in grocery stores and loading and unloading packages. So he was really a big part of my motivation because I saw his work ethic and how hard he was willing to work. And so I definitely believe that some of that was definitely instilled in me in terms of I just applied it in a different way in business.
Well, I love that. And that's exactly what this video series, the podcast, is all about, is, where your motivation comes from. And then you talk about work ethic, and we start getting into talking a little bit about discipline. But real quick, there's a Facebook user out there right now that said, hey, guys, I apologize if you're in a group or you're on another platform. I may not see your name come up. So please drop your name in your comments as well. And the legend, I just had him here at the school for a seminar, got to spend several days with him. Ricardo Laborio is watching. Let me tell you how awesome that seminar was, just to have some time on the mat with him. But even more importantly, and you know this because we've been fortunate to meet a lot of really great mentors in our, not only in our industry, but just people in the martial arts, and talk about a great person. And we talked a lot about our why, and we talked about the importance of family and our passion for martial arts. It was just amazing spending time with him. And then we got Miss Dawn Angelieri. She's saying, hey, Mr. Parman, what's up,
Hello,
Miss
ma'am.
Angelieri? Wow, look at all these people jumping on to check you out. Guys, if you have any questions, please drop those questions in the comments, and we'll get those out and some answers to you guys. But you talked about your dad being motivation to you, and then you talked about your dad, having that strong work ethic. Now, I know you to be a guy that really hustles. I mean, you're out there, creating your new program, and you're working as a consultant, and you own a school. And I know you got a lot of things going on, and it takes so much discipline and strong work ethic to keep things going. Tell me a little bit more about your dad and some of the things he did and some of the things that he taught you and how that affected your life.
Well, I think a lot of us, as you're growing up as a kid, you look for mentors, and I didn't have to look very far. My dad had an amazing work ethic. And with that being said, I think there's also that part of you as you grow up, you kind of look to do opposite too. So just like he was my motivation for my work ethic and really just gave me a solid foundation, I also saw some of the mistakes, or I wouldn't even call them mistakes, just, the path that he chose, and kind of want to go opposite direction. So, my father was one of those, and him and I have had lots of these conversations, but he's the guy that always played it safe, right? Went and worked the government job to get the government salary, to get the pension and the health care, right? And I appreciate those things because he took care of me. We weren't very wealthy, very lower middle class family, but he absolutely did his best, and he gave me the best kind of foundation, and taught me that working hard and instill that work ethic. But at the same time, I realized that I was looking at other people in business and seeing what huge financial success. And I never really had that, right? Like, to go out to eat once a month was a very big deal. If we got to go out to eat one day a month, it was that was a glorious day because it never happened. We didn't have the money, right? My parents never had. We had 3 clunkers, and we were lucky to keep 2 of those on the road at any given time. That's why he always had to have 3 cars, because one was in a constant state of being broken down. My parents never bought a new car until I moved out of the house. So if that says anything, and I looked at that, and I was inspired to take a little bit bigger risk. But he always supported me and that was part of the amazing thing, was he wanted to see me choose a different path. Right. And he would always say, hey, make the mistakes when you're young, take the risk when you're young, because when you get old like I am, you can't afford to take those kind of risks. And, and he would always say, if I had to do it over again, I would like to, but I can't afford to at this point in my life, And so he really encouraged me to step out and became a huge inspiration. And my mom was always just the cheerleader in my corner, no matter what I did, she would support me. But don't get me wrong, all great entrepreneurs have made lots of mistakes, and a lot more mistakes than they've had successes and wins. So,
well, we always use the example of, Babe Ruth was at one time the all-time home run hitter, but he was also had the record for the most strikeouts as well.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, guys, still a whole bunch of you watching. Please comment. Any questions, drop those in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys as well. One of the things that you just the concept of, I talk to my students about watching people and learning what to do and learning what not to do, right? Like, you can always see the lazy kids in class, and it's like, well, don't do that. And then you see the kids that are really excelling. You're like, you got to watch how they train to get to that next level. And it's kind of, you're talking about that same lesson about with your dad. When I was younger, my dad was in construction, and things were either really good or things were not very good. So I completely understand that whole concept. And I watched things as I was growing up. And one of my brothers actually went on to be in construction as well. He's a builder. And then my youngest brother, we both own martial arts schools. So we kind of divided a little bit differently, but we followed that example of, what to do and what not to do. But, it is great to have parents that were supportive as well. My parents were always supportive of everything I did. When I said I wanted to open a karate school, when I'm a teenager, they just looked at me and said, well, go get after it, So that was a really great. And Kurt Klingelmeyer watching, he said he loves the origin story. See, everybody loves an origin story, and here, some of the struggle. And let's talk about that. So, in your bio, you have opened several schools from day one. You have opened schools that you've taken over. Talk about some of the mistakes and talk about some of the failures that you've had, just so as people are listening can get a better understanding of where you come from.
Yeah, well, you talk about your origin story and starting your karate school. Well, I didn't know a lot about business, so I decided early on in my early 20s that what I would do is I would just go work for as many successful school owners as I could to learn all those lessons. Now, there's been a part of me that said, it would have been far better just to have opened my own studio instead of making other people millions of dollars to have opened my own school, hired a mentor, and been a little further ahead. But one of the things that was smart about that was I learned exactly what to do on somebody else's dime, right? So I was able to have a lot of success opening studios, but I was under some phenomenal mentors. People who knew what they were doing, multi-school owners, owned a lot of other types of businesses. And I really learned some of their hard lessons, but I watched them as they grew and they become successful, and mimicked a lot of that, but also learned a lot of what not to do, right? How to treat staff, how to incentivize staff, things like that. And that gave me a unique perspective because I could see even how successful they were in business, they still, from time to time, still made mistakes. And so I could learn from those so that when it was my turn, I didn't make near as many.
Right. Hey, you got a Facebook user again. I apologize, I can't mention your name because I don't see it. But they say that Mr. Parman, you are the best. So that's a kudos to you, sir.
Greatly
so
appreciated.
Give us a.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. We're just sorry, guys. Connection's a little bit wonky there. It kind of goes in and out. But what I was going to ask you is, can you tell us one of your craziest stories of a situation in a school where it just taught you a really big lesson?
Yeah. Well, where do I start? Right.
You tell me.
I've definitely. One of the craziest things that we ever decided to do was buy a school here in the States, but from a gentleman who owned it and was living, and it was a Korean master. It was a Taekwondo school. And so a little interesting going down to Bank of America and wiring $30,000 to South Korea. So that was definitely a unique experience. And of course, just like anytime you buy a business, it's not exactly as it's sold. So, obviously we knew a good bit of that before going into it. But it was a unique situation in which I actually bought two businesses across the street from each other and then merged those two businesses into one. So I literally bought one school, and then I bought their direct competitor across the street in the adjacent shopping center, and then merged both of those together and made tons of mistakes, really kind of changed the culture of the business in a lot of the ways, and trying to make it into our systems, but a little too fast, and so I often use with my clients, I always say that, there's two ways of doing things in life, but I call it the Band-Aid approach. There's the, you've got a Band-Aid on and you just rip it off really quick, but there's a lot of collateral damage and it hurts a lot, it removes a lot of hair really quick. And then there's the slow and easy approach. And if you want to retain customers, the slow and easy approach is always the best. And unfortunately, we did not take the slow and easy way. We just changed everything instantaneously. And so we lost, honestly, we were really buying the businesses for the customer base, right? And we lost a lot of those customers because we just rushed into things and made too many changes too quickly. So that was interesting, and all the paperwork that you have to fill out when you wire that kind of money overseas.
What do you think is your what do you think is your greatest success so far, and what do you attribute that to?
Honestly, and isn't this the way, out of all the success that I've had in business, my greatest success is just my amazing family. My super supportive wife. I have my oldest daughter works for me in the business, and that's amazing and awesome to work aside one of your children that wants to work for you. And the other one that's just now, she's 14, about to be 15, and helps us every day, and wants to be a part of that as well. And then just, so I think oftentimes you think about all the businesses and money and success, and really at the end of the day, that doesn't even matter. And I often encourage other people too, especially entrepreneurs, as they're getting in, and you want to be motivated, and there's times to make sacrifice, but don't ever sacrifice time away from your family. Leverage your success in business and what you learn in that, so you spend more time in that regard. And I've had other opportunities to do other business ventures and jump into things. And honestly, as I've gotten older, I've had to get a little wiser that, if it means sacrificing time with my family, then maybe it's not always worth it.
I agree, and I just happened to pull up on my phone because I've saved it for many years. One of my favorite quotes by Walt Disney, and he said, "A man should never neglect his family for business." And I'm happy to hear you say that. It's something that I live by, and talking about leveraging your success to spend more time with your family. I can definitely remember in my early years that it was a grind before we had kids. My wife and I essentially went into business when we weren't even married yet, and we put a lot of time into the business, and we spent so much time trying to reach for that level of success. And at some point you kind of look at it, when the kids were born, I'm like, well, I don't want to miss a baseball game. I don't want to miss a dance recital. I don't want to miss this or that. I actually remember this, and this what we were at a MAIA Elite seminar, and then this was still kind of early on for me, my elite seminar, and I was a coach of a baseball team that my son was on, and they won a big regional tournament, and I was at the my elite seminar, but I wasn't there with my son. I that one moment sticks in my head for a really long time, and so I've made the choice to spend more time with him doing the things that he can do, because at some point, you're not going to get that time back. You can work every day, all day, and you're just not going to get that time back with your kids. And Mr. Eli Guzman, thank you for tuning in. Glad you're listening. Any questions, please let us know. So, you've become, at least with MAIA, you've become the after school specialist, we'll say, right? And summer camp programs.
Sure.
Talk about that. Was that always something that you focused on in your schools early on, or is that something that just over time you kind of shifted your energy more in that direction?
Yeah, my original mentor, Keith Scott, I opened 2 schools for him. And when I was working for him, we started an after school program. So I knew kind of how to run it and manage it. He made all the classic mistakes. He put me behind the wheel at like 19 years old, picking kids up from school. And probably didn't have the right types of insurances and everything else on the vans. I spun an after-school van on the way to pick up kids. Fortunately, I didn't have any kids in the vehicle at the time, and so kind of made me think. So as I went to work for other people in the industry, they didn't necessarily have those programs and things like that. And then there came that time where I was starting to open my own schools. But I want to kind of accelerate my growth. So I figured, how can I do it, but actually do it correctly with the right kind of liability and insurance, and make sure that all of our dots were dotted and T's crossed, right? And so I decided I used to have 2 schools, and I kind of merged those into my existing location. And as I was doing that, I really wanted to make sure that I could maximize my total gross revenue and net profitability. And so one of the quicker ways was, the after school and summer camp allowed me to kind of leverage and get a lot higher student value. So that was initially one of my main focuses in doing so. But then, just like any business has ups and downs. And so I really kind of wanted to recession proof my core business. And so that was one easier way of doing that. And so that's kind of ultimately what we did. Now, I never sat out to have this huge program. It just kind of grew. And now sometimes you regret kind of building it into the machine that it is now because it just creates, lots of headaches, right? So like for summer camp, we have 16 staff members, seasonal staff members that we have to bring in, train, get ready, just to service 8 weeks of summer camp. And that's a lot of work. And it takes a lot of focus to make that happen, especially because we're running an average of 140 kids per week through our summer camp.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, you talk about it being a lot of work, and fortunately you have the staff to back you up and to take care of the day-to-day operations, but it's still something that you've at the highest level need to continue to manage. How do you balance your time between running your school and the after school programs, the summer camps, and your family life? What are some non-negotiables for you, or what are some parameters that you set for yourself when it comes to the business and family time?
Well, so obviously, a big part of an early conversations with my wife as her kids were getting and growing up, one of the first things that we decided was we do work some odd hours. It's not a typical 9 to 5 And any business owner will completely and understand that entrepreneur is your hours or whatever it takes, right? And in the beginning, it takes a lot of hours until you have that staff where you can leverage your time and energy. But even with that staff, now you have even more greater responsibilities and other families that are also relying on you. Now it's not just your family, it's your staff's family as well. So I take that as a big responsibility. So, one of the things is, and I learned this lesson 10 years ago, was really making sure that we did family vacations, and how important sharpening the saw was, stepping away from the business and just having that week to recharge and refocus. Because for years, I went almost 10 years with no vacation, because I thought that was the sacrifice I needed to be more successful. And then I realized that I was actually more successful when I took a vacation, because when I got back, I was rested and I was even more focused and more ready to get to work than ever before. So that was definitely one. The second one was, me and my wife had very serious conversations about what kind of lifestyle that we wanted. And we made a little sacrifice at the beginning and decided that rather than her go to work, that whatever that sacrifice meant, that she would stay home with the kids, which is even more work, as you know, because she never gets off raising our children. She also does a lot of their schooling as well. They go to a hybrid school where she homeschools a few days a week. They go a few days a week. And so that's a much bigger responsibility with our kids. And with that, part of the reason we decided that lifestyle was because it was easier to go around my schedule, since we work until 9-10 o'clock at night, that it allowed the kids to sleep in and then get their schoolwork done while I was at work. So when I came home, our friends joke around with us, but my family doesn't eat until 10 p.m. every night, but we also sleep in the mornings, unlike most families as well. So we totally just rearranged our entire family dynamic around my work schedule and made life choices and decisions that allowed us to do that, right? We don't get to take vacation during the summer. That's like the time we work the hardest. So we take vacation right before and right after summer and make lots of time to do so.
Awesome.
Just making.
So let me ask you this: outside of martial arts and vacation with the family, what are some of your additional hobbies or things that you enjoy when you have some downtime? What are some things that you find yourself doing?
I'm glad you asked. For years and years, I really never had a hobby. It was either business or just spending time with the family. But most recently, I've taken up, I bought an RC remote control car and having lots of fun with that. My wife always makes fun of me because when I get into a hobby, like I go all in, right? So I came home from the hobby store, and $2,000 later, I had the most awesome RC car ever. and awesome. And wrecked it and destroyed the whole front end of it on the first go. So that was always fun, right? And then also recently, I've gotten into barbecue. I got a pellet grill and a Traeger, I'm watching all these YouTube videos and just enjoying having fun. We cooked a mean Wagyu brisket July 4th and had all of our friends and everybody over to have it, and pretty awesome.
Nice. Miss Shannon Edwards is tuning in. Hello, Miss Edwards. Great to see you. Thanks for tuning in.
Miss Edwards, how are you, man?
Guys, if you have any questions as you're watching, anything comes up, you want to just kind of dive in a little deeper, please drop your comments and ask your questions. But, Mr. Parman, you just brought up something. You talked about, your hobbies and how when you get into something, you go all in. It seems to be with every entrepreneur, every person that I've talked to with any level of, high success, that A personality, that A type personality is just like, it's either all or none. Do you find yourself feeling that way about everything you do, and how do you kind of control that?
Yeah, no, well, I control it with my wife because she she'll give me a good backhand. And, I might be the martial artist, but yeah, she kind of helps keep me in check, or gets onto me when I go too much in. But you're right, our personalities are very much, when we make a decision to do something, whether it's a hobby, whether it's business, whatever it is 100% and then some, right? I want to be the best at that than anybody else that I know. And I will research, I will put in the time, and I will put in the money to be the best at whatever that is, regardless. So, and I think that is very much part of an entrepreneurial personality. When you make a decision, you're all in. And it's full force, no hold back.
That's right. All consuming, right? So I don't want to let any secrets out that maybe you're not ready to talk about, but we kind of talked at the Super Show, and you got something in the works. Is that something that you want to talk about?
Yeah. In the future, I'm working on a new program for after school and summer camp that I'll be launching here in October and November. And got some great collaborations in the works. Won't say what those are quite yet, but very excited about that, to help teach other entrepreneurs how to launch after school and summer camp programs, and help some of those learning, some of the learning, and just help them with business, avoid some of those pitfalls. So.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, can't wait to hear more. Can't wait to hear more about it. I'm sure there'll be a big launch, and everybody's going to hear more about that. But I think that's great that you've taken something that you're passionate about, something that you do well, and now you're taking it to the masses. Not just necessarily for yourself or maybe only the financial gain, but to actually help the other school owners out there, to add something to their toolbox, so to speak, and help give them another option in their school. So that's great to hear. When you're working with clients, when you're teaching students, when you're talking to your children, what are some of the most important lessons to you, or what are some of the things that you're very passionate about getting across to any one of those groups of people?
Oh man, you didn't tell me these were going to be hard questions, like insightful.
They're always hard. That's right. We're just having conversation.
I think, if you're going to be successful at anything, and no matter what part of life you are, you've got to be passionate about it. It's got to be something that's worth getting up in the morning. As a consultant, whether it's the martial arts or anything else, I've had the pleasure of helping other business owners outside of the martial arts consult and help them with their business and grow their business, build brands. And for me, I'm passionate about helping others, and I love the feeling when you see them succeed in business as well, because it says a lot about yourself as a coach, and we're just internally grateful. I've helped multiple martial arts school owners become millionaires, and that's an amazing and awesome feeling. But you can't get there if you're not willing to, number one, if you're not passionate about what you do, getting up in the morning. Number two, it's got to be something that, everybody says, oh, it's going to be hard work, but it's more than just hard work. That, I know a lot of people that work hard in life, but don't have a lot to show for it. right? Everybody always says, "Oh, go out there, work hard," but that's only part of that element. The other part of it is you've got to really find some phenomenal mentors, people who inspire you, people who've been there, done that, so that you can start mimicking what they're doing that has gotten that success. So no matter what it is in life, and I tell this to my girls all the time, is find people out there that are that you can learn from, that you can mimic. If that's what you want to become, if you want to be more successful at doing that, then find people at the top of their game, and those are the people that you need to follow.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's great, and you and I have been fortunate to have many great mentors, not only in business but in the martial arts and in life. So having a mentor, no matter what you're doing, and people kind of get caught up on a what a mentor can be. Sometimes a mentor can be someone from afar. There's a lot of people that I've interviewed, as a matter of fact, on this show that I follow, and I read. I read from them, I listen to them, I hear their podcasts, and to me, those people are still considered to be mentors and people that you can learn from. And I think that anytime we can look at where we want to go, we need to find the people that have already been there to help show us the way.
Absolutely.
So what are you reading right now?
Oh, um, well, um, currently, I actually picked up an oldie but a goodie. Tony Robbins,
Hmm.
Awaken the Giant Within. That's an old one. But when I was in my young 20s, there was nothing better or more inspiring than listening to those. They were tapes back then,
Right.
and listening to him. So I just recently picked that back up, and then every several years I always go back to Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad, but we got the teen version, and me and my 14-year-old have been recently starting to talk about that one. So you're never
That's great.
too young to learn some of those lessons.
No, absolutely. You know what? Actually, and I'd like to ask that question to the audience. Anybody here watching? Because I'm always looking for good books. What are you reading right now? One of the books that I'm reading right now, a friend turned me on to, is called Endure. It's by Cameron Haynes, who he's a backcountry bow hunter, and it really has nothing to do with business per se, but it has to do with. I also read Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and marathon runner, ultra racer, and just learning about that attitude and talking about mindset. Because attitude and mindset, no matter what the activity might be, can apply to life, business, family, and otherwise. So I'm really enjoying that book, even though I'm not a hunter and I don't do ultra races, at least not yet. So that's been a great book, and like you, I've gone back to read some of the classics. I had a stack of books in my office that I was like, I think I read these a while ago, but I haven't picked them up. So I kind of started going through some of the old ones. When I was younger, I could not stand reading. Reading was not my thing. Everybody said, "Oh, you should read this, you should read that." All these books. I just was not a reader. And it really for me wasn't until I got into 75 hard. So anybody out there doing 75 hard, if you've ever heard of it, that was my motivation to start reading again. I had to read 10 pages every day. And since I started, I think 2 years ago, I haven't missed a day of reading something. And I might only go through a book once a month, but I have a very specific, you know, time frame that I'm reading. I set it in my day. First thing in the morning, I wake up and reading my daily reader, which is John Maxwell, and just little excerpts from his books, which are amazing books. So anyway, just looking to hear what anybody else is reading out there. Please feel free to share that. We're going to wrap up here in the next 3 to 4 minutes. So please, any questions that were not asked, drop those in the comments. Mr. Parman, we talked about what is coming up for you, but what do you see changing in our industry? I know I said we weren't going to talk so much about the martial arts industry, but can't help but not talk about it. What do you see changing, since the pandemic and as we continue to move forward? Because we've made a lot of changes in our business just in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think it's just like whether we're talking about martial arts or any business, I think at the end of the day, one of the most important things is to leverage technology to become and create more of an experience base for our customers, right? So one of the things that I've really focused on, and we all learned how to use Zoom and to live stream our classes and things like that. And I think that technology was available to all of us, but we just never used it because we didn't have to, right? And then all of a sudden we were in a situation where we had to learn very quickly in a very short amount of time how to leverage that and use that for our business. But I think there's so many tools out there right now and such a much bigger customer base online. And I think schools are going to get more and more savvy about utilizing those and touching customers that may not necessarily live a few miles down the road. But also when they are in our facilities, leveraging that technology to create a more unique and customized experience for the customer as well, and I think that's going to be any kind of tools or technology that utilize us to be able to do that to a greater extent, I think is really going to see a huge trend in our industry and a lot of like service-based industries.
Well, absolutely. Well, this podcast. Oh, I'm sorry. It cut out for a second, but I was just going to say this podcast was created with exactly that in mind, because as we entered the pandemic, and quite honestly, all I saw on Facebook was every negative opinion and blah, 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 blah. And I thought to myself, what can we do to inspire people and motivate people a little bit more? And I was like, let's do an interview with all the people that I've met in my experience over the years that have inspired me or motivated me in one way or another. And hopefully people watching will gain that. So I 100% agree with you as far as, leveraging this opportunity online and reaching out to people in ways that we've never reached them before. So yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And, there was a brief time when I sold my martial arts school and moved to Orlando and it even worked for the Ritz-Carlton, and we had this huge database where we recorded what customer preferences, right? And things like that. But now I start seeing that kind of technology and that type of software being utilized in other service areas and even martial arts schools, right? So just utilizing more of that. And I think it's about creating more of an experience for our customers too. As crazy as it sounds, I have a laser maze in our karate school, because what kid doesn't want to do a laser maze when it's their 5th birthday party and they're, they want to be like a ninja. They want to crawl through the lasers and everything else. And so we try to kind of bring a little bit of that into a martial arts school, as crazy as that sounds. And so I'm always looking for those kind of things that will distinguish my business, help build my brand, make it uniquely different for our customers. And I think that's the key to any successful businesses is leveraging that and continuing to see how they can make that experience for the customers that much better. So, and at the end of the day, the customer wins, which is even better.
Well, I think we all win, right? When the customer wins, we win. We all win, right? It's not just a win-win, but a win-win-win. But I love that, and we didn't really get to talk a lot about that. But you've always been someone that when you talk about experience, always I don't want to say outlandish, but you've always had great ideas on events in your school and like you said, creating an experience. I think that's important. I think if we're going to talk about anything that's changed in any kind of service industry, is that we focus so much on that experience. I think a lot of us talk about the Disney experience and just, that whole kind of concept. But, and some people don't like to hear about that. You got old school martial artists that are like, no, we do it this way and we've always done it this way. And that's the way it's always going to be. And the problem is we can't keep students as long doing it that way. So whereas if we can give them a greater experience, they will stay longer. If they stay longer, they reap more benefit. And when they reap more benefit, more people see the benefits and the value of martial arts training above and beyond the kicking and the punching. Would you agree?
Oh, I couldn't agree anymore. Absolutely. And, a huge mentor of mine used to say that you're not in competition with other martial arts schools, but any business that gives your customers a better customer experience. But we all talk about the Disney experience because they're out there doing it on such a high level with thousands, if not millions and millions of customers every year.
Mm-hmm.
And people leave there talking about it until the next year when they spend and do the same vacation over again, right? And and why is that? Because they've created such an unbelievable experience that people want to go back and experience it again and become raving fans. And so, with that, I look at our little martial arts school as in competition with Disney World, right? They've given because some of my customers go to Disney World, and so they're being experienced, and so we want to give them a little piece of that when they come into our business too. So.
Well, we could probably continue on for at least another 45 minutes just talking about this topic alone. But listen, guys, first, we got Rick Rando just jumped on here. Hey, thank you, Mr. Rando, for jumping on. Appreciate you. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you, sir.
But guys, it's the end of the show. And I know, again, we could have gone a little bit longer, but here's what you can do. Help share this story to help motivate people and inspire other people out there. And I just want to thank Mr. Parman for being on the show and everybody with all your questions and comments and just tuning in. So thanks again. Any parting thoughts, Mr. Parman, that you want to say before we go?
Hey, I just wanted to thank you for having us on Vegas, and look forward to many years in the future and maybe being back on the podcast. I would love that.
Definitely. Definitely. I think there's going to be a lot of part twos coming up. I've got all of 2022 booked out. As a matter of fact, I just started booking 2023, but I've had a couple people reach out and say they'd love to do a part two. So I think that's a possibility. So thanks again to everybody watching. Appreciate you guys. Have a great week. Watch the video, share the video, drop any more comments as you like. But again, go out and make it a great week. We'll see you guys next Monday with our next guest. Take care. And thank you, Mr. Parman.
Thank you, sir.
Take care, guys.